thank you so much for watching The Forum. I'm your host, Ashley Tate, here with my co-host, Christy Largent. And today we're talking all about homelessness and our community. And we have Jonathan Anderson, and he is the Executive Director of the Good News Rescue Mission. So excited to have you on. There's like so much to talk about, right?
I know, we've been wanting to have you on a long time, Jonathan. So for people who don't know the story of the Good News Rescue Mission, why don't you tell us what's the history?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so the mission actually was started about 50 years ago by Reverend Royal Blue, right here, local pastor in town.
Wow.
And over those 50 years, it originally was just a place where people could come in, get shelter. They would sleep. They might hear a chapel service at night, have something to eat, and then they were out the next day.
Oh, wow.
So over the past 50 years, it has grown rapidly into a 3-block campus with 10 buildings and multiple programs. And now we see thousands of people each year being healed, rehabilitated.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that end of your sentence is very different than what I thought you were starting this sentence with, where you said we see thousands of people a year being healed and rehabilitated. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I think a misperception is that it's perpetuating the homeless situation.
Sure.
So speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes we'll hear people say, hey, there's a mission, so obviously people are coming here to just go to a mission, right? So on one end, we're part of an association. We have 300 gospel rescue missions that are our sister missions. And so those are spread out all over. There's 34 in California, 52 on the West Coast.
Wow.
So we have people in missions all over. What we do specifically on our end is we have emergency services. So anybody who is homeless today, they can come in and we deal with all of their emergency needs: food, shelter, clothing, hygiene, dental, medical, all of that.
Wow.
Then we have our supportive service side. So the supportive service side is where we are trying to get people into programs that are designed to break that cycle of poverty.
Yeah.
So in that we have drug and alcohol recovery for men and women. We have the adult basic education, computer literacy, job readiness, professional interview skills. Just goes through this whole gamut. And so basically it's, if somebody is broken today, they're homeless today, we have every resource available to help them become self-sufficient and self-sustaining in the economy.
I love that. Now, are people likely, if they come in for emergency services, let's say, are they likely to stay, or is it more of a, I'm going to come in a few times and have a few different touch points, and then they make the decision to go into one of your programs, or do they have to choose to go into a program?
So it's all individualized. Everything is individualized. So we developed a virtual case management system. Somebody came up, built a software system for us, so we can, at day one, when somebody comes in, they do that initial assessment. We're trying to identify what is your individual root cycle to poverty. And through that, what is the game plan we can set up for you individually, and are you agreeable to working that plan with us?
What percentage of people are agreeable to working a plan right now?
I would say somewhere around anywhere from 60 to 80% of the people are agreeable to a plan, depending on the season. So when the weather's really good, if it's really good weather, people, they might just want to stay outdoors for a while. But if the weather's horrible, it's, I really want to be here, but while I'm here, let's work on breaking out of that cycle.
What are some of the myths that you've found working in this position and working with this demographic that you've found about homelessness, like that, you know, maybe the general public wouldn't know?
Oh my goodness. Biggest
How
myth.
long do we have, right?
Wow. Biggest myth. I fear for us as a society because we tend to become very jaded, right? And it's easy to become jaded. If you see somebody, you know, camping out in front of your place of business, is driving away your commerce, it's easy to be jaded.
Absolutely.
But in that, as we become jaded, what I hear more and more is people say, hey, they just need to get off drugs and get a job, right? One, if you're an employer and you went and picked someone up at the park today, you're not going to hire them for customer service. They're not ready for that, right? At the same time, to say just get off drugs, 80% of the people that we serve at the mission who battle drug addiction started before they were 10 years old. 80%.
Wait, say that again?
80% of the people we serve who are battling a drug addiction started drugs before they were 10 years old.
How is that
And
possible?
we have 10-year-olds, so this is like thinking, how on earth?
One is they're born with the drugs in their system, right? A lot of babies being born with meth, heroin, or even alcohol in the system, and then they're put through this whole system with the foster care and all that. Another way is they willfully began using drugs to escape the reality and numb the pain of the things that were happening to them in their childhood. And so it's very common, very common. So
80%. So what kind of recovery rate?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, talk about the odds stacked against you.
Yeah, you see, say it could be a 36-year-old male adult who, just kind of out of his mind or sleeping in the gutter somewhere, and we go by and we prejudge that person. But if you knew what was happening to him at 6 years old, if you knew drugs were forced upon him at that time, and he doesn't really like humanity because humanity wasn't there to rescue him.
Right.
And so really we have to build trust with people first and foremost, And when we can build that trust and build that rapport and they want to receive the help, that's when breakthrough happens. And so recovery for us, it's not a, hey, you want to start a program. It's, we have to actually walk through your past. It's going to be hellish for a while, but pretty soon we're going to get to a point of healing and restoration.
Well, and it's also saying we welcome you no matter where you are and what you're doing. Like, I tell my kids all the time, they're always like, why are you smiling at that person? Do you know that person? And I said, no. I said, but you don't ever know who needs a smile. And it's true. It's like, if you treat them with dignity, anyone, generally that comes back full force, and you don't know how it touches people.
So I just want to say, that really touched me hearing you say that, and I hope I hope that our viewers have heard that, because I am so judgmental about what the homeless people are doing to our community, the negative effect they're having on our community, and it just makes me want to say, how can we help? Instead of that judgment, when I'm trying to get into Safeway and I'm being whatever with my kids, I can say, I want to say, how can we help? How can we support what you're doing to help these people?
Yeah. One thing I love to say is nobody was ever hated into healing. You can only love people into healing, right?
That's so true.
And in society, when we become jaded, oftentimes we're looking for when people fail as opposed to looking for when people succeed.
Because people generally aren't happy for people who are succeeding.
Right.
I mean, that's actually the real problem. It's not the people who are failing. It's the people who aren't looking. So, okay.
Wait. How can people help?
Oh, okay, yes.
So how can people help? Like, we're watching, we're like, okay, I want to quit judging and I want to start helping. What do I need to do?
So for me, in my heart, it's really a change in perception. It's a change in the heart attitude. So first, I'm huge on this. Mother Teresa, she said, loneliness is the greatest poverty, right? I'd rather be hungry than lonely. Now you think of the worst forms of torture throughout all of history. It's to make someone utterly alone in a dark, damp place for an extended period of time, right? And we have capital punishment in our country. Right below that is solitary confinement, utterly alone. So the longer periods of time you spend in solitude, the more mentally unstable you can become. Well, as a society, when we become jaded, we socially isolate people.
Absolutely.
Right? You're this person who is dirty, you smell awful, you're sleeping in front of a place of business. I don't want you here. What we're doing is we're isolating. And so the best thing as a community we can do is to say, look, maybe I have reasons why I'm offended by things you're doing, but that shouldn't preclude me from going to you, seeing you, valuing you as a human being, and saying, okay, what's your story? Break my heart, and how can I help in the process?
So you're suggesting that we engage?
Engage. Absolutely.
It's really hard for me to hear that, Jonathan. I have to tell you. I mean,
and it doesn't have to be every single person that you see, like inside of Safeway, like hello. But I think you will run into some people that You know, it's like I've been sitting outside of like Brew Coffee and people are walking up, you know.
Or we see the same ones over and over.
Right,
Like,
and you can just, a simple hi works.
Yeah, address them. So tell us about, I know we could talk forever and we're running out of time. So what's the distribution center?
Yeah.
And how can people, who accesses it, and do you have to be homeless to go shopping?
Yeah, so all of our services are open to the entire community, from our dental clinic all the way down. Everything's open for the whole community. You don't have to be homeless. Our job readiness center, if people need help with resumes, anything. So distribution center is where we have household items, we have clothing for infants, the whole spectrum. And anybody who needs clothing can come in and get whatever they need. Now, on our end, if they are homeless, if they are a part of our programs, then we give out what they actually need and not in excess of that.
Okay.
And then we offer free laundry systems as well. So we do all their laundry for them. And so it's just teaching a level of a responsibility and accountability at the same time.
Now, do you have anywhere in your program, if someone may not feel comfortable, say like Christy, if you don't feel comfortable necessarily engaging on the street in a, you know, do you have an environment in your program where people can come in and kind of engage and be that?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. So between all of our programs, we operate with 34 staff, but 300 volunteers.
Wow.
And so we have opportunities for people to come volunteer. And hey, I understand, maybe you don't want to go to that 36-year-old male adult who's talking to himself, right? But what about the single mother with the 3 children? You know? And so there's whatever your heart is drawn to, whoever you can connect with, that's what we want. Restoration and healing happens because of life-on-life relationships. Programs are great.
What's your website? I love that.
Oh, so our website is www.gnrm.org
like
for Good News Rescue
Mission. GNRN.org. You're going to want to check it out because if you're like I am, you've been a little bit convicted. But don't go away because we're going to come right back with the second half of our show.
Hi, and we are back, and we are still talking about homelessness in this segment, and we are here with Tom Reeder. He's the case manager for Bridges to Housing, which is a relatively new nonprofit in town, and this is very exciting, like some of the stuff that we're going to learn today. So tell us a little bit about what this is. Like, what does this program do?
So it all started a couple years ago, just maybe 2.5 years ago. Dr. McMullen, who works out at the health clinic in town, started going out on Fridays to go out into the homeless community and provide medical care directly to people who couldn't actually come to the clinic or even come to the Hope Van to get their medical treatment that they need. A lot of it's just temporary stuff. You know, he can't do surgeries or anything out there, but we definitely do what we can. And while he was out there, he noticed that there was a really big need for people to get medical treatment, and not just medical treatment, but people who got medical treatment, but because they were out on the streets or living underneath bridges, you know, they would have these wounds bandaged and taken care of, but they would just get reinfected over and over again. So he thought, what these people actually need, if we're going to be spending all of this time and money and energy and resources taking care of these people at the start, we need to extend that. We need to provide some sort of system of care where they're going to be cared after the care. It's kind of a respite system, and some cities already have this, where after you're discharged from the hospital, you can go somewhere you can stay for a couple nights or a month or so if you really need it, just to recover, to completely heal. That way you don't just end up back at the emergency room in 3 months for the same exact thing you were just there for. So we started this program where originally he was actually paying for it, but we've started taking donations to help pay for it because he can't pay for it all himself. Where we get people into transitional housing, which is usually a motel in our situation. And while they're in a motel, we work with them not just on medical needs, but also getting them connected to social services and getting them connected with Medi-Cal and things that they need to, once they're done with our program, they can start living independently and on their own, or more independently on their own, and in a healthy, safe way. So a lot of our clients are older because those are the people who kind of need that extra support for their medical needs generally. But there are clients we take of all age ranges. We do have some families that we help take care of and things like that. The general baseline requirements for the program are that people help pay for themselves, so we don't just pay for a room all on our own. They have to pay, we say, at least $50 or up to 60% of their income in order to help pay for their room, and then we help cover the rest. Because what we noticed around town is that you can get people into housing, but a lot of it, if they have, say, Social Security insurance and things like that, they're getting enough money to maybe pay for a room every month, but then they're not making enough to pay for a room and also pay for food or pay for bus tickets. So, you know, they have this, essentially it's forcing them to choose, do you want to eat this month or do you want to have a roof over your head?
Wow.
And that's not something you can really sustain yourself on. So
what is your what is the rate of like improvement, or what are you kind of seeing from this?
So a lot of the people we see only stay with us for a couple months as they kind of get back on their feet, so 2 or 3 months. Because as I said, a lot of it is medical care as they're coming out of the hospitals. So in terms of that, you know, we see dramatic improvements in terms of people who, you know, they're finished their medical care and they'd otherwise be just going back to ground zero and just getting the same thing over again. Instead, they're fully recovering, and
their hygiene is improving.
We have one person right now who's been with us for about 2 months right now, and he's talking about, as he's kind of finishing all of his physical therapy and stuff from his hospital visit, he's talking about going to job fairs and things like that because he's looking for employment, because he's excited to have another opportunity again.
Well, and you're meeting them, essentially meeting them exactly where they are, and then you're taking them from ground zero to, now we're going to give you some housing, which housing makes such a big difference for people, just to kind of recalibrate a little bit. And then once you're getting that medical treatment, you know, they don't have access to any of the old ways that they were, whatever it was, you know. So I think that's a very interesting concept. And so he just started doing this just because, or like?
Well, it's something that he felt very passionately about. And there's actually precedent for it in other cities around the country. So Utah is a big proponent of the Housing First model. It was actually something that was brought up federally by President Bush back in, I think, 2002. It was brought up as a federally advocated thing that never really ended up going anywhere because it requires a lot of money right off the bat to start it. But actually, as you look down the line in those places that have incorporated these systems, you actually end up saving money over time because you're not having to spend so much money on medical care for these people.
ER visits go way down.
Very expensive.
They're so expensive.
But it's also police. Your police departments aren't as strained. You know, in town, our police departments, their call time to emergencies is dramatically longer because they have so many officers who are getting called out to go, you know, like take care of this homeless person. Even if that person isn't necessarily doing anything wrong, they're making people uncomfortable, so someone calls the police to see if they can kind of shoo them away or something like that. But that every single time you do that, that's increasing the call time for the police to actually come to big things like robberies or break-ins or things like that. So you save money medically, you save money from the police department. So in the end, you're actually saving money when you're providing this help to people.
So how many people are in your program, and where do you see this going?
So last year, we were able to help 37 people. As of this month, last week we just got some new people, so I have to like redo the numbers in my head.
That's okay.
I think at the moment we're helping around 10 or 11 people, so we're pretty small scale.
With what you're doing, I know. I'm like, with what you're doing,
a lot of service.
And you're a new startup. How long have you guys been around?
So we've been around for about 1.5 years at this point. I just started in January as the first employee. So. And
what does that case management piece look like? Like, how do you keep track of everyone? How does?
So it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of, at the end of the day, I have to write a lot of things down just to keep things, you know, in track. I have a paper for each person saying I met them this day and this is what we worked on, and I keep just documentation on. They've been going to the doctor, they've been making this visit to the Social Security Health Department, stuff like that. But a lot of it's also just driving around and visiting them and making sure they're okay. And if I have time, I'll just sit down for 30 minutes and chat with them for a while.
Are there any sort of requirements that people have to do or, to be part of the program?
Be part of this program. The requirement is a lot of it's just getting lucky, right time and right place, because we have limited resources and I have limited money and also time that I can spend with people is limited. So a lot of it's just, hey, maybe this month we're not helping as many people and we've got space for you right now. But generally what we're looking for are people who are willing to make an effort to improve their situation. And we're looking for, as I was talking about, a lot of medically fragile people who have an actual medical need that they should not be on the streets anymore. So I recall there was about 2 months ago, there was a woman who was really, really looking for help. And she wanted to make things better, but we were pretty full up already. We had kind of spread thin, and she didn't have a dire medical need. It wasn't an emergency for her that she needed to be housed. So I kind of told her, you know what, right now is not a great time. Maybe if you get in contact with us in a couple months, we can find some way to help you then. And whenever I do that, I also give people suggestions. I say, hey, there are other places you can go in town that are more suited for your situation. I don't just leave them hanging. But sometimes there's not too much I can personally do, which is upsetting and it's frustrating, and I want to be able to help everyone, but I can't. So that's what you have to do.
Help the one you can.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what is your background? What brought you into this program?
So my background's actually very different from this. I studied genetics in college. Yeah, genetics, English. So very different. But what happened is I just happened to know Dr. McMullen as a family friend. Actually went to school, middle school, high school in town with his daughter.
Oh my goodness.
And when I heard that he was going out doing this kind of stuff when it started just as him going out on the Fridays into the different, so what he does on Fridays, whenever he has time at least, is we actually hike out. We fill backpacks up with peanut butter jelly sandwiches, socks, gloves, and medical supplies. And we go out into the camps in the communities and we provide medical treatment to people.
Oh my, why didn't you lead with that?
I'm sorry.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. That is really impressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
No, go ahead. You heard he was doing that.
Yeah.
So I heard he was doing that and I just called him up. I said, hey, I really want to be a part of this. And we kind of joke that I'm the pack mule because most of the people he takes out with him, he's a doctor. We'll take social workers from the Hope Van out with us. We'll take medical residents from the clinic out with us to get them some exposure to that. And I don't have any medical training, so I'm just kind of well, I carry the bags and I talk to people and I make sure they're doing okay.
And that is very necessary. Yeah.
So really is that how you find people that would fit into your program then?
That is initially how we did find people, and we do still find some people like that. And that is where he got the inspiration to do this, because we were meeting so many people where they'd be able to make, it was kind of, we'd see this health issue and they're like, can you help me with this? And the honest answer was, as long as you're living outside, there's not really a lot we can do about this. We can give you antibiotics and we can put a bandage over it, but what can we do other than that? So it was really frustrating. That was kind of our impetus to start this. But nowadays we find people from all over the community. I've had calls from the social workers at the hospital who know about us, who are saying, hey, this person needs a little bit of extra time. We get referrals from the Hope Van. They're kind of coming from all over.
That's great. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better for your program. I mean, that's how you want it to evolve.
And how do people just write you a check, or how do they support you?
Yeah, we've definitely gotten people sending us checks in the mail before. Most of our donations come through our website, www.readingbridgestohousing.org, or you can check us out on Facebook, Reading Bridges to Housing, or the People of Reading page is also run by someone affiliated with us. A lot of people have seen that page. So that's all tied together, and if you go to any of those sites, there's links for you to donate to us, and that's what most people do, is they donate $5 or $10, and they're just saying, hey, I want to help out a little bit, and it adds up over time.
So is it tax deductible at this point?
It is tax deductible. So United Way is awesome, and they help us as our fiscal sponsor, so they help us be a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. So it is all tax deductible.
You know what I think you guys need?
What do we need?
I think you guys need like some tiny houses donated to you.
We would love that.
Wow. Anybody
do that?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
We need some tiny houses because that would be so awesome to alleviate the amount of money, you know, and so that you have to pay for a hotel and then you have direct access. What an amazing program. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I bet it's very rewarding for you.
Yes.
It is. Every day is exciting
You're seeing,
and different.
I think as a geneticist, it's got to be fascinating because you're like, what is it in their genes that and circumstances that brought them here, and how are they responding to it? And then how can we get them reconnected with society to be functioning members of society? So what an interesting show we've had today, huh?
That's great.
Good News Rescue Mission. Now the website again is on your screen. Reading Bridges to Housing.
Yes.
Thank you, Tom, for coming out. Thank you for watching once again. We've had a fantastic show here, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time right here on the forum.